Good morning.
Morning.
Youngstown's Talk Channel. Welcome everybody who's out there in internet land doing talk radio here. And you and I have the most interesting delving in all different types of territories.
Yeah.
And, we get kind of annoyed when it's always politically based, but that's the content that people want to see.
Yeah.
But let's switch gears today.
Okay.
Do you have anything first off?
Just want to point out again, same wavelength.
Yeah.
Anyone who watches our show, start noticing how often Joe and I dress alike, and it is not planned. We did not plan this.
Do you think they believe that we don't text each other and say, what do you wear?
Wear the black shirt today.
Yay.
Wear the stripes today. Yesterday we both had stripes. Today we both have on black. Quite often I see we both have blue on the same days.
Mm-hmm.
Same wavelength.
Synchronicity? Is that what that is?
Synchronicity. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Okay. Cool. All right, what's on your melon?
That's all I got.
Seriously?
God.
You come in. Listen, you do so little prep that you come in here and you have nothing for me.
Listen, when I try to do prep, I end up with things like yesterday where I'm talking to birds and I look like a loon.
Did you do it on purpose? Bird?
No, that was a happy accident. Happy accident. I was thinking of something this morning, though, actually.
Yeah.
But it was kind of a grouchy topic, and I didn't know if you want to get
No, I'm in a good mood, so I can withstand grouchy today.
All right. It was this topic of I'm so sick of this whole, I don't even know what you want to call it. Victim mindset, maybe. Grown-ups can be so childish. And you see that in politics. You see that in local communities. You see it on Facebook on the regular. And it's just like when a grown human being is presented with something they don't like, how childish they can get with it. And I keep seeing that all the time. Was my theme this morning of like, oh my God, grow up. Like, not everyone's against you. There are reasons for rules, like, rule, I don't like this rule, so it shouldn't have to apply to me, so I'm going to break it. And when I break it and face a consequence, I'm now a victim because you had the nerve to give me a consequence of the rule I knew about that I broke anyways.
So why don't human beings emotionally ever grow up? We're like perpetual 15-year-olds.
Yeah,
we
that's
might
a good question.
Pretend to be adults. We play the role of adults, but when you dig down deep and you're put in the the pressure situation, you're just a 15-year-old that cries and whines and blames everybody else, takes no responsibility, and probably an idiot on top of that. So yeah, those are the people around you.
Like as a kid, you think grown-ups, I guess, are a certain way or have this certain mindset, and then you become a grown-up and you're like, no, we just grew up. we didn't advance. We didn't become smarter. We can do more things now, but like, God, you look at reality TV and you're just like, wow, we just got older. Not smarter, not more mature. We don't understand things better than a child does. It's scary and alarming, I think.
So in what department, you're obviously annoyed by an instance that might have happened. And so what department is really gnawing at you? Because we'll talk about. You
want my examples?
No, you can protect the innocent.
Okay.
But what if I had my scepter and I wanted to go solve this for you by taking a segment of the population and making them, I'll make them behave differently. Who am I even picking?
God, how do I say it vaguely and I don't actually talk about the instances? Well, I mean, not to bring it back to politics, but let's look there.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a post the other day, and it was talking about, we've discussed this before, the idea of should you be allowed to purchase junk food with food stamps.
Yes.
And I see a post that said, here's what's actually happening. First of all, why do you care what other people are eating? It shouldn't be your business if somebody wants a treat. And second of all, here's what you're actually doing. If you can't buy sugary treats with food stamps, you're taking away birthday cakes from kids that can't afford it. Every child should be allowed to have a birthday cake, and you're a monster that wants to take that away from them. And I just went, wow. That's exactly what we were talking about yesterday. This is the emotional sort of warfare that people in the government use to sway you to agree with them or side with them or vote the way they want you to vote for. It has nothing to do with, oh, I don't know, maybe sugar is dangerous. Maybe eating unhealthy is dangerous. Maybe we don't want a medical system that is constantly overwhelmed trying to treat people that can't afford to pay it. And now you've got somebody that is suffering the rest of their life because of chronic illness or diabetes. You've got a medical system that is overwhelmed. You've got people that can't pay. So now there's endless debt. But really, no, we're just monsters. Want to take away a kid's birthday cake.
All right, let's get in Joe's time machine.
Okay.
We're going to go back to the slippery slope guy, right?
Yep.
And so if you give people free stuff, right? That's the origin of this, where the bleeding heart libs wanted to make sure that everybody could at least not die from starvation. Cool. So everybody who pays taxes are like, let's put a little bit in and take care of these people. Slippery slope guy says, soon as you do this, there's going to be dire consequences, because when you give free food to stuff, then you almost want to have a say. So you invite all of your friends to Red Lobster for dinner and you say, I'm going to pay, right? Mm-hmm. So you think that everybody that you invited, because they're friendly with you, are going to just eat what they normally eat, right? And take it easy on you because you're the one paying and they're not. And when they start ordering, you're like, holy shit, every time we come here and you're paying, you get the cheap meal, the value 9. But when Kelin's paying, it's the ultimate feast, baby.
Yeah.
And then you feel a little bit like, why did the decision, like when you're paying, you make different decisions. When somebody else is paying, you don't give two shits about what they have to pay. So the slippery slope guy says that if you do that long enough, right, you're going to forget why you even did it in the first place. If the mission statement says we don't want people to die, and then today we're having conversations about me paying for your freaking birthday cake, right? We've come a long way from death. We're talking about now you started ordering the ultimate feast, got indigestion, right? And you're complaining about how now you need to solve my freaking indigestion. So I get in my time machine, I roll back. Here's the deal. So your kid's birthday is coming up. You don't have enough money to buy a birthday cake. So what I want you to do is find a family that can do birthday cakes, all right? And ask them, hey, I'm in a bad spot. Will you teach me decision-making ability so that I can next year afford the birthday cake? And then they're going to say, yeah, let me do the birthday cake this week. And then I want you to meet up with me every week and I'll show you how to put decision-making together so that you can do it too. Now we've solved the actual problem.
Yeah.
Is everybody should be able to afford a birthday cake, but they make poor decisions or they put themselves in bad circumstances, but they don't want the advice. They want you just to give them the thing, right?
Yeah.
Without having to earn it.
Because if you don't, you're the bad person.
So if you lose your job and somebody brings you groceries, that's a nice thing that got you through a something that was out of your control. If I have to buy you groceries for all time, at a certain point, I'm going to be like, shouldn't you be invested now into making different decisions so you can buy your own groceries, wean you off of my open hand so that down the road, right, you don't start complaining about the groceries and say, you know what, you're buying this brand from me, but what about this brand? And then preying on emotional blackmail to get me to do more stuff for you. And we're like, hold up, you should have been cut off a long time ago. You should go out and figure out how to do this on your own without the dependency on those other people. Because now you're just spoiled and aren't even saying thank you for the shit that you've been doing all along.
And it's not even so much for me from a source of like, I feel like someone who's very liberal could hear what you said and think, well, he just sounds mean. He just sounds mean. Like, listen, I even saw a video that said, funny how the insults the right puts on the left are actually compliments. Oh, you're insulting me because I'm caring, because I'm giving, because I want to help other people. Those aren't insults, those are compliments. And I'm like, to the contrary, not at all what we're saying about you. And by we, I'm speaking for the right because I feel like I'm neither right nor left, but not at all what we're saying. What we're saying is we, or the right would say, we are also caring. We'd be more than willing to give where it is really needed, to help where people really need help. But we don't want you to continue to suffer, to continue to be in a rut that is making making it so you don't have the things you want or need, to continue to be unhealthy and feeling awful. We want to help you get better and be better and feel better and have the things you want to have. If I give it to you, oh, what a nice person. If I change your situation forever, then what am I? Am I still a jerk or am I a nice person? Because we didn't want to band-aid your problem. We wanted to help you fix the problem, but we're the a-holes who aren't caring?
Well, the second part of that is they're not arguing that they need to be more charitable. What they want to do is they want to pick somebody and make you be more charitable.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. If you love taxes, pay more. If you think people need to be given sodas, go down to the supermarket, grab some sodas and deliver them to someone who you think needs them. But what they're doing is they're at my analogy with the Red Lobster table. You are the payer, so you want some say into what everybody can order at your table. You can set some guidelines, what you're willing to pay for. And then you see some abuses on there. There's somebody at that table, whether or not they could pay or can't pay, they've got an opinion about what you should do. And that's the difference. If you're the one doing the thing, you can be as charitable as you freaking want. But you can't pick someone that you dislike or disagree with over there and force them to be charitable the way that you want them to be and hold emotional blackmail to try to force someone who's not you. Yeah. So that's fine. I know there's some people, some very charitable bleeding heart liberals that do give extra taxes and do, volunteer at soup kitchens and are charitable, and they think more people should be like them. So what they should do is take their energy and go inspire and motivate more bleeding heart people to get personally involved in changing the lives of other people instead of outsourcing to a bloated government that just takes control of individuals, rips responsibility away, and makes those people worse off, almost like the zoo, right? Don't feed the animals because they'll become dependent on human beings, and then you set them out in the real life and you're like, oh, now they can't fend for themselves. They need me forever. There's a voter forever.
Yeah, it's the short-sightedness where they'll say, oh, well, what's it matter? It's not hurting anyone if we do this.
So you do it personally.
Yeah. And it's
keep me out of your charity discussion.
And it's like, actually, you are. What's it matter if we allow people to eat a bunch of sugar and treats? It's their body. It's their body that they take to the doctor because they've hurt their body. And who's paying for the treatment? And who has to keep dealing with it? And who gets put out when the consequences of your actions bleed into society? Now it really is kind of our business, isn't it? And it's what we think about it. It's not this, who cares? Mind your own business. Like Tim Walsh says that a lot. Mind your own business. Mind your own business. To a point, we can mind our own business. But when your choices and your business start coming into my business, don't tell me to look the other way, because when I tell you that I don't like it, oh, now I'm the bad person, right?
If they would leave you out of their business, that would be a different story. If you're not paying, like if you want to beat up on yourselves, if you want to exploit yourselves, so be it. But if we're paying, like I believe in universal health care, right? The system needs absolutely fixed. What I don't believe is that you take a bunch of people who have no responsibility and make somebody else pay for their bad decisions. So universal health care exists for me, that you can go and get free health care if every one of your health decisions is controlled by the people that are paying for it. Now we have a system that scales, right? We can afford to do it. But if we're like, hey, we make terrible decisions, we get unhealthy, we're perpetually addicted to pharmaceuticals, we're in the doctor every 7 days because we can't seem to figure out the threads that making us ill, and then say, oh, you know what? I just don't want to pay for all of these bad decisions. I want him to. That's not universal health care.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I feel like my kids are starting to see examples of this too. Like yesterday, we're at the ball fields, and I recently bought my daughter a pair of sunglasses, and they were inexpensive, and she knows that. We bought them because we saw these real cheap glasses and they were cute, and we said, let's go ahead and get them. Well, they were flying off her head yesterday. She threw them accidentally, but like onto the ground, all this stuff. And I'm like, what are you doing? That's real nice how you treat your stuff. And she's like, what? They were whatever it was, $8 or $5. And I said, of whose money? Did you pay for this? And she just looks at me like, oh, that's a good point. And I was like, yeah, pay for your own and throw them around. That was my money you're throwing around. And I feel like, I'm like, God, we can apply that to so many things right now. What's the big deal? What do you care? Why can't I just do what I want with my stuff? Oh, because your stuff was bought with my money. Because what you do, I pay the consequence for. But when you don't have to, now I'm the bad guy that I even question what you're doing.
Yeah. The only way that charitable works work is when they have lots of strings. Because you almost don't want to go get the free stuff, because all the shit that you have to do to qualify for it and all the stuff you have to go through, and you have to self-wean yourself away from the stuff. That's not fun. Like a free gift where you don't even have to say thank you, or you don't even have to appreciate it, and you can even demand more as the Karen that you are, right?
Yeah.
That's a bad system that cannot last.
Yeah. We're Karens.
But do you, all right, so
I don't know how we got on that name.
You go back in time and you take government assistance programs. Do you think that government assistance programs were easy, or they were, the block of cheese days where if you didn't have enough money, they gave you enough so that you didn't die? Do we go back to that point and make the standard be just not death? Or with people on those assistance programs, do you make it luxurious so that they don't have any kind of shame when they go through the register? And
so, like, you're not going to have the newest iPhone if you're on assistance.
No, if you have the newest iPhone, you don't get assistance.
Right.
Because the means testing is that you're in such terrible conditions, right, that things are not going great for you. There's no way you could order and have a newest iPhone.
Yeah. And I've even been in situations where, I've heard of kids that have struggled because they've never had a birthday cake. They've never had this or that. They don't, and you hear these situations of kids like in foster care, and all day long, take my money. Like, I absolutely will give you all the birthday cakes. But there's situations in which they can't control it, and they're trying. And they're trying to get out, and they're making
But you
steps.
nailed it. It's a personal thing.
Yeah.
You used to go to your church, and the church would tie its help to making better decisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
The government can't pay attention to you in what you do. So they're a great sugar daddy to have, because they have no needs from you. Like, just vote for me, and then I will give you a long list of benefits that I'll dole out. And then, like I said, that when, if you asked a human being saying, if you were down on luck, where would you go? Right? They would say the government program. So it's not your neighbor or your friends. So the relationship that you have, everybody wants to pretend like nobody falls on hard times because they're ashamed of it. But that shame is what conditions your brain to make better decisions. That pain is supposed to be what's there to make you do different things.
Yeah.
We were talking about the Sody Pop girl the other day. I think her name was Tammy.
What?
You ever hear her?
Sody Pop.
The Sody Pop.
Tammy. Sounds familiar.
Okay. 1,000-pound girl meeting with a nutritionist. And this video went viral years ago.
Is this Tammy from like 1,000-Pound Sisters show or something?
Yes.
Okay.
And the nutritionist was like, so what do you consume on a daily basis? And she was like, Sody Pops, right? How many do you drink? About 12 Sody Pops
a day.
And she said, but it's diet, so the diet cancels out the sugars, right?
Gosh.
And so these people, right, have gotten themselves in such a predicament with bad decisions. I want to take the nutritionist. I want the nutritionist to be able to handcuff Tammy, take her in a room, not let her suspend all decision making, because obviously not a good decision maker, and have her sit in a detox room for as long as it takes until her decision making can be reeled back in, so that a person that knows stuff is helping make those decisions.
Yeah, because you even see on those shows like that one in My 600-Pound Life, you see this person that is so badly off. They need someone to continue that. If they're bedridden, they can't move, they can't feed themselves, they can't whatever. What do you always see? A family member or friend bringing the fast food to them, bringing their treats to them. And you almost want to be like, what are you doing? Stop giving it to them. You're killing them. That's kind of how I see like the 600-pound bedridden, unhealthy person, AKA liberals, being like, I'm hungry. Why would you not bring me this? What do you care what I'm eating? And in the meantime, we're all like, stop this.
All right, so you have a couple levels here. Right?
Okay.
So my stipulation is you have the freedom to make any choices that you want, right?
Yep.
So that's number one. You want to do whatever you want. The second rule of that, to buy that freedom, is that you pay all of your own consequences. So if you want to do this, it can't affect anybody else. All of your freedoms and rights stop when it starts affecting you, your or people outside of you, your family, your neighbors, the people that are paying for it, right? Mm-hmm. So if the person on EBT buys everything that the government says are healthy choices for eating that make sure that you don't die, you want cupcakes, you have the absolute freedom to go get cupcakes if you want as part of your decision making. But it's your responsibility to do the unhealthy thing. Once you've been told that soda pops aren't what you should be drinking. In your house, do you drink a lot of water, or do you drink soda pops?
We don't often have soda pops.
No soda pops.
Anymore.
No 12 soda pops. No one soda pop.
I maybe have soda pop once every couple of months, maybe. I usually just have a little bit, and that's it. I quit buying it so that I wouldn't drink it.
Okay. So if there are families like mine and yours that primarily do 10 glasses of water per day and very rarely, exception like a couple times a year, of having any sugar drinks whatsoever. So if the model is that it can't be done, right? Yeah. I don't feel like I go home and I didn't get my sugar fix today, that somehow that I am emotionally stunted and that that somehow somebody's being mean to me.
You're a victim.
I'm a victim. So I can go to Soda Pop Girl and she should be interested in saying, hey, you're not drinking Soda Pops. How do you do that? Right. And then I can teach the Soda Pop Girl how to not want Soda Pop.
Yeah.
But you started off with the victim mentality. Mm-hmm. Is the Soda Pop Girl a victim to an extreme addiction to the poison that is sugar?
You could look at it that way. Yeah.
Is she at fault? Is the food industry at fault? Is a lack of information at fault? Is it an oppressive government that's at fault? Who's at fault for that?
I could see it be a little her responsibility, a little food industry responsibility.
How's it the food industries? Tell me.
Not like it's their fault. They're making a product. They're not holding a gun to your head and saying, do this.
So how's it their fault? You name them on the list.
Maybe they're not. It's not their fault. Maybe they help. They're the drug pusher.
All right. So I watched a television show about a husband beating his wife. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I start beating my wife. Is it the television show's fault, or did they help put that idea in my head that beating wife is a good strategy at home?
I mean, I feel like it's the viewer's fault. Like you should know to separate the two.
So the person watching the commercial about the hamburger on TV, is it their responsibility to either say, yes, I want that, or not?
Yes. My only thing is, like, I'm picturing in my head sort of this scenario where if you're a child and your parents are also in this unhealthy mindset, and that's all they give you. Child doesn't necessarily seek out to feed themselves. They are given. If they're given the sugar, aka now addicted to it, that's where I could see them being in any way, shape, or form a sort of victim to it to an extent.
So I push back on the commercial thing, because if we're looking at an ideology of victimhood, there's a group of people that do not want you to come to the conclusion that you have free will and choice in this. Yeah. So we're not teaching people to say, all the information is out there. You can go on YouTube. You can look all of the health stuff. Nobody's going to come to the conclusion the things that are safe and the things that are not safe. If you do the unsafe things, you're going to get healthy. If you do the safe things, you have a much better chance of being healthy. If somebody in your life controls what your diet is, the minute that you can make your own choices, then you swap into the things that should. And having a saying, you can't control it because of TV. You can't control it because the grocery store doesn't carry it, or the convenience store that you have access to doesn't. As soon as you have free will, you fight to do things that are good for you, and you fight against the things. You don't sit there and say, well, somebody's going to come along and tell me that none of this is my fault, And therefore, I'm not going to make any changes because they're going to rescue me from the responsibilities. But we know that about domestic abuse, that you should know better when you see that. You should have the brains to be able to say hitting another person is wrong. But the hamburger on TV somehow owns you, and you don't know that that's an unhealthy choice. We got to connect that and say, no, you get free will to make every decision. You get to decide based on information, the things you should do, regardless of the victim, peddlers.
Yeah.
That it is your choices, your responsibilities are all your fault, right? As long as you have the first, because I can audit you, right? Mm-hmm. I can say, there are moments in your existence where you had a choice and you chose the wrong path. As soon as you do that, right, then you weren't really trying to make the good decision.
Yeah. If you're watching TV at night and you see commercials for this juicy, hot, big, large burger and golden fries, or this warm, steamy pizza with gooey extra cheese, and you're like, oh my God, I am now hungry. That advertising did exactly what it's supposed to do. But if you get up and you go and get that food to eat, that's on you. You could be like, "Ooh, that looks good." But
let me tell you this. I will even give you a pass on that one. There's been times I was watching a football game, ate a pizza, right? And that one can't be held against me. But the pizzas that I do every day after that, and the soda pops that I do every day, I'm judging you for those ones because maybe the marketing was good and it was perfect timing where they got you that one time. But the rest of them are your choices after you've become addicted. So when I see the pizza, I know that's a highly addictive food. So if I eat it, I got to be responsible with eating it because I'm going to want to eat more of that.
That's why when I say I only have maybe a little bit of pop every so often, I know that sometimes when I eat pizza, my brain, grew up as a kid, pizza and pop. I'm like, oh, now I want that sweet pop. So what I will do is instead of buying a 2-liter, I will buy a 1-serving thing of pop. That's it. And I'll even share it with my daughter so I don't drink the whole thing. And I know that this one time, once a month, this one pizza, I'm going to have a little glass of pop with it. And then it's out of the house. It's gone. Can't do it again till I go back to my next one time. But yeah.
Again, giving you a pass on that. Because I will judge the last 50 things you ate, not the one thing that you ate. And a lot of these unhealthy lifestyles that are being subsidized by taxpayers, we're poisoning people, making them unhealthy and making them suffer. And I don't want to do that. Yeah. I mean, you can even take the I'm paying for it part out of this and just we're making people's lives worse by allowing bad decision makers to pick out what food they eat. So if you're a good decision maker who pays all of your, the costs of your decisions, then you can do whatever you want. If you're a bad decision maker, you need the Nazi nutritionist to come through and tell you what you're going to eat and what not until you become a better decision maker.
And even if you take away this whole you're a bad person for not letting me do this thing idea, their argument doesn't even make sense when you look at things like, we have unemployment in this country. You get laid off from a job, you can file with the government and get free money under unemployment. But what do you have to do to get it? You have to report that you applied to at least 3 places every week. You have to show that you are actively looking for a job in order to receive this benefit. So why is that okay? But then it's like, well, I get food stamps. I live off the government because I need help with food. Okay, that's fine. But you're not going to use it on this, because it's not good for you. Whoa, that's not fair. You can't tell me what I can and can't use it on. Well, when you wanted our money, we could. Now you want our money again, and you want us to feed you, but you don't want any say in that. Like, I want to be able to drive a car. Okay, well, you have to wear a seatbelt because it's for your safety. Fine. But again, okay, so here are ways that you can get food, just not this food. It's not good for you. Whoa, that's ridiculous. Like, why? Oh, that's right, because we can make an emotional appeal out of this one. I could tell you that even though it's for your safety and it's for your health and you're using someone else's money, so really they do have a say. It's, oh, you're taking away birthday cakes from poor, helpless children. That just
emotional blackmail
grinds my gears. Bill says, if I knew how ad lib bad, maybe how bad being a grown-up would be, I wouldn't have been in such a hurry to grow up. Yeah. Do you ever see things that kids do that you wish you still got to do, or you were like, oh, I wanted to grow up and now I don't have that anymore?
Give me an example.
I don't know. That's what I was wondering.
No, because I dig in and do it anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I have no shame.
Maybe I wish I would feel like it's baseball season and neither of my kids play baseball like on a team, but we'll go outside and play. And it's still fun and I'll still do it, but I feel differently. Like, I wish I maybe had the ability to run without being sore or something like that.
Yeah. But that pursuit of kids wanting to grow up, it always fascinated me. How much you want time to go fast and you just to be an adult. And then when you're an adult, you want to be a kid again. And like there's some psychological information in that fascinates me.
I will say though, I mean, I remember thinking like, you want the freedoms of being an adult. I don't regret that. You know, sometimes I feel like people be like, oh, I wish I didn't have to get up and go to work. Well, but you would be getting up and going to school. And I don't know if that's a better trade-off. You know, when I was in college, all my friends were like, oh, where are you going to go to grad school? And I'd say, I'm not. I don't want to. Oh, but what about this? And I said, well, I can continue going to school and spending money, or I could get out of here and go get a job and make money. Like, I don't want to go do something that I'm not getting, you know, paid for or money out of, or a benefit or things I need or paying bills. Like, this route is just me spending and me losing, whereas this route is me gaining. So why would I not do that? So I don't often think, oh, I wish I was a kid again, because I feel like I do have more freedoms and abilities and choices as an adult. Maybe it's just different. Maybe just different responsibilities.
Most of these political topics, I usually volley at my kid before we talk about them, if anything's happening. And I get more insight from a 15-year-old, better insight from a 15-year-old than I do some adults, because they don't populate their beliefs on things that they heard from other people, or they don't have it bought into as an ideology. They just give me he just gives me his real justified opinion based on how he would feel,
unless they're groomed by their parent.
It's true, but that's independent thought is what we've taught from forever. And so when I raised the EBT, should people be able to, there were some elements that people were fighting for that he thought were just plain stupid. Like, adults behave that way. Are adults dumber than rocks? So he's getting insight that he understand. I mean, okay, so he probably has some conservative or libertarian bents just because he sees how we operate. He sees, the truth, and we don't talk shit about anybody. We don't make anybody feel bad. We help anybody, wherever. So he gets that deal where your system should be in place that don't enslave a whole group of people, right? So it'd be stupid to get everybody addicted to all of these chemicals, make them dependent, and make them into your own voters, right? He thinks that's a bad thing, and it's only through adult level, mass control of people that when you boil everything down, like, hey, you're getting those people addicted to the dependency on you, and then you're making them do things for you. And as kids, they don't want to have an authority being over them. They want to break away from authority. They don't like the rules because they don't think parents are doing as good a job as they could be done. So they have that insight, is to break and have more freedoms, not less freedoms.
Does he ever find it funny that the side that is saying that is pro allow people to eat their toxins, allow people to use other people's money, allow people to do whatever they want, whether it's right or wrong, because then we can go ahead and kind of buy your loyalty. That group is calling the other side Nazis and the other side uncaring.
He is very confused by this, very confused.
And the people that say, we're caring and we care about people and we're giving and we're all for love and we speak out against hate, is the loudest when it comes to hate towards another.
Well, everybody has Aunt Martha, right? Aunt Martha doesn't get to see you very often, and she comes and she buys your love by giving you toys and whatever. And every kid knows that Aunt Martha is not even that likable of a person. She just pinches your cheeks and sloppy kisses and gets lipstick all over you and all that stuff. So the kid already knows what type of behavior is over the top for an end and it's not authentic, versus someone who might deprive you of cupcakes and tell you to go to bed on time and knows that there's some logical reasons and consequences for everything that they say. They orient that in their brain. They know who is believable and who they would trust in an important deal, and who, like, if I want a PS5, is that a thing? Is PS5 the newest one? I want a gaming console, right? Yeah. Am I going to go ask dad, who's going to tie it to all of these strings, and I'm an impulsive 15-year-old, I want the PS5. When I want something, am I going to go to Martha, who's absolutely going to be the PS5 if I just show her a little bit of attention, versus dad, who's going to make it all like academic and responsive driven and maybe have sense and make learning involved in it and whatever. They know this. They know when they're manipulating and when they're not, so they can see it in the real world, who's being manipulated and who's the manipulators.
Man, I tell you, that's something I miss from being a kid, is the idea that all your relatives are like Aunt Martha. They're all just sweet and kind and giving and fun. And then you become an adult and you're like, oh, you see who they really are? That can be an eye opener. Being an adult and seeing the true person of a relative. And it's not saying they're a terrible person. It's just the reality when you maybe had them on a pedestal. That can be eye opening growing up.
Yeah, but the mass delusions, and that we talk so much about that, where we try to win people over from the other side to just do critical thinking on their own and stop believing people just for stop believing all people just for a period of time. And when you're not listening to them and no one's told you how to feel, try to make like your first conclusion jump on your own, not predicated on things that you've been told, and figure out what that's like. And here's another one. This happens to me all the time. Like I'll always catch myself into hearing a commentator that I trust say something, and I just file it away, really having not given it much thought. But then I'll hear somebody else I trust say the exact opposite, same trust authority on both sides. And I'm thinking, holy shit, what did I do? Like I adopted in something that I should not have, because I didn't put it through any filters to see how I really felt about it. I get caught in that pretty regularly.
Well, another frustrating thing to me is that I'll see people saying that. Like I'll see someone online like, oh, these people just think that because they're told to think it. And why don't you learn how to do critical thinking? And why don't you learn how to think for yourself? And just quit being told and it's the person saying this is the exact example of somebody who's doing that.
We absolutely all do it.
Oh yeah. I'm like, the hypocrisy. You don't even see what you're doing. You don't even see like, okay, what's your source of information? This one, this super bias rag that has nothing in it but I feel and I think words, not actual information. But that's your critical thinking, right? That's you looking into something.
Let me point this out, because this is what's going to doom us, right?
Yeah.
So on one level, right, you're coming to wrong conclusions because you're being fed terrible information. Right? That's number one. Okay, I can see that. There's a lot of misinformation, a lot of people who believe stuff that really isn't true from an objective standard. But then you also have the group underneath that, probably part of the same group, who has the information, the correct information, but is in denial of the information because they want to do something from the top part. So it's not a lack of information, right? Because we're just going to do what makes us feel good, and we have a benefit. We're going to have all of the vices of being a human, and we're going to make all decisions based on what benefits us first and foremost, not taking in consideration who it hurts most, which is everybody else that is around us.
Yeah, and we're right fighters. We just want to be right more than we want what is right. And I've even heard there's a statistic that says when somebody feels something strongly and they are presented with evidence to the contrary, all it makes them do is dig their heels in deeper. Well, now I have to fight back. Well, you're not credible, or that's not right, or that must be biased, or there's no way that's right, and I'm still right, because they just want to be right and they can't let you win. And it's like, no. I've believed this for so long that this has to be true. And it's like, I'm sorry you've believed that for so long, but it's not true. This is the facts. And they will disregard it. They can't accept it.
All right, so to finish off the EBT topic and the food benefits deal, do you think there should be anyone that is just not a good enough person to receive charity benefits from the taxpayer. Like a person, let's just say they don't appreciate it, and they've never said thanks for it. And if you interviewed them, they would feel entitled to that benefit. Should they not get anything whatsoever? It's part of the requirements that you appreciate that somebody's doing something for you.
I mean, yeah, to an extent. I've seen people that are taking assistance in one form or another, whether it's food stamps or whatever, and watch them literally talk about, like, there's no shame in it. Watch them talk about other ways in which they will be shady, in which they will get one over on the government to get another thing that's free. You know, like whether I listened to some girls one time talk about claiming their friends' kids on their taxes, so they get that tax break. Like, let me do this, let me do that. What in other ways can I commit fraud to get more free stuff so I don't have to work?
Okay.
When I see that, I'm like, you should get nothing. Even if you don't make a lot at your job and you have mouths to feed and you've got to buy food and you need information or you need assistance from the government, the moment you then say, hey, that was pretty nice, let me see if I can get assistance doing this now and doing this now and doing this now. That's when I'm like, I would cut it all off.
Now, what about benefits that sort of, if you start to prosper or get in a better position, you lose your benefits, so it keeps you in that lower rung of needing it? Because so for instance, if you make too much money, you lose your benefit. So then you try to make right up to the level where you can keep your benefits and whatever.
Yeah.
And then you don't get beyond where all of us want you to get beyond.
Yeah. That's sticky to me because I've seen instances of that. People feeling like, I'm just surviving with this. I could go a little more, but then the rug gets taken out from under me and I'm right back to where I was because I didn't get ahead enough. That I am unsure about, because I could absolutely see how that happened, is like getting sort of crippled in this system of I'm getting help while I try to better myself. But the moment I make 1% improvement, I get knocked back down because it wasn't enough to reach for that next rung. But while I'm trying to reach, they take out what I had from under me and now I'm lost again.
Because you are enslaved into a system of dependence that is meant to be temporary and is meant to kick you over the edge. But because government cannot be your pastor down the street and help you, you are standardized in systems that are then cruel to you and enslave you into that part. So, my argument is always, if you personalize it and the person helping you, you can actually have a conversation with, and they actually care to get you better. That person would never say, you made $1 more than I was willing to help you. You're cut off, because you're having a conversation. So when you have it with your church and your pastor and your neighbor and someone who's counseling you, they're not going to make dumb decisions. But when you put people in that big group, the group is going to be treated like they're just a herd of cattle and just an enslaved species. And now you're doing dumb stuff like keeping yourself in the lowest tier of income so you can get free stuff.
Yeah. And what's interesting too is it's always sort of on the shoulders of the system. There's a system in place that keeps us down, and that's not our fault. And then I would love to look more into like, well, how did you come about being involved in this system? Was it because you were poor as a kid? And if you were, why? Was it because your parents didn't make much money? And if that's true, why? Were there bad decisions in there? Was there drug abuse in there? Was there crime in there that sort of kept you in this little area? And now that was sort of the foundation to get stuck in this system. Like, I feel like there are a lot of decisions and situations that lead up to needing the assistance in which you get stuck. Does that make sense?
This conversation frustrates me because I don't know what the end is. Like, if you're arguing that we change nothing, then all you do is give the reasons for just staying the same, right?
Yeah.
Because it's too dangerous to be able to make any differences. From a problem solver standpoint and an engineer standpoint, once you agree that it needs to change because it's not the best option, Then you start not making examples or creating victims or whatever. You're like structural change to make it so the system is not. So if you have if in your backyard you have a high wire and you put a safety net underneath the high wire, right? The goal with the high wire is to make it across without falling. If all you do is end up on the safety net, then it's not really the safety net. The high wire wasn't even the thing. You built a safety net and you just laid on the safety net. Now you just created a hammock, right? Mm-hmm. So if nobody wants to be on the safety net, you have two choices. Make the higher wire more accessible, right? So that you don't end up on the safety net, or make the safety net so that it only doesn't make you die, so that you try really, really hard to stay up on the high wire. You have those two choices. So talking about like the cruelty of focusing on the safety net, it's not even freaking supposed to be there. You're supposed to be so good and have so many people willing to teach you how to walk the higher wire and never needing the safety net that before long you're like, oh, let's just take the safety net away because everybody's so exceptional. They stay right where they should be and would belong.
Yeah. So my brain is trying, my brain is like envisioning this example, like this literal example. Let's take a kid who is in a poor household. Parents are uneducated. And I'm not talking about like you got to have like a degree or go to the university or whatever. I just simply mean like maybe the parents were dropouts. Maybe they got into drug abuse, whatever. They've made bad choices. Money's not coming in. They have a child. That child now doesn't really have a good teacher in the household. Maybe goes to school and gets into trouble. Maybe doesn't go to school. Maybe parents aren't even paying that much attention. Maybe there's truancy there. Maybe now that kid also does not have education. And again, I'm talking about education as in knowing how to make good choices. So now they don't have a background. So they try to get a job, but the job is now like, well, you don't have any education. You don't even know how to do anything. You don't know this, that. I'm not hiring you. So then kid has to go and get a lesser paying job, not a lot of money. Well, now I can't better my situation. I can't move out. I'm stuck living here. I can't make a lot of money. Then of course they're like, well, maybe I need assistance. I need to buy a car to get to work to make any money. And you see how they get sort of stuck in this thing. Where in that would you say, this is where you help yourself? This is where you improve yourself?
Well, if you're engineering it, you don't start with the impossible situation because all you do is create proof that it can't be done. What you do is you take the non-impossible situations and you support the fringe cases all the way leading up to the impossible and fix those first because those are the most doable part of the equation.
Well, okay. How so? Like in this.
So what is the goal with teaching responsibility?
You learn responsibility. You learn how.
Well, what would be the goal in this case?
In my example?
Yeah. So you took like sort of like generational bad decision making, and no advantage and no opportunity, and saying, okay, systemically, how can we start introducing opportunity and fixing that case? Well, there's a case that has more opportunity than that one that is fixable. If you had people in society that can model good behaviors, good decision making, the math behind success, whatever. So if I came out and said that those three rules: finish high school, get a job, wait to have babies. Mm-hmm. Now there are some people that do not have the lifestyle to even make those choices. They're going to have a kid, they're going to drop out of high school, and then they're going to go right on assistance. But there might be somebody out there that contemplates that, that wisdom and can do all three of those things. That's who you start with, because if you can create a group of people that are in the majority that are making the good decisions, then you can point to a larger example for the fringe cases. So in these cases, let's just say there's 10% of the population that would be the hardest to help, hardest to instruct, hardest to counsel, right? Mm-hmm. But you basically prove to the rest of society that it can be done, and say, hey, now that you've done it and you saw where you were probably going to end up versus where you did end up, go find those people, capture them, show them love, visit them every week and help them make better decisions and give them opportunities they don't deserve. Now you start working on the impossible crowd after there's more of the regular crowd.
So in that impossible situation, it's, a couple did not do the things. They did not finish high school. They had a baby young. They didn't have job. Now they have this child. Who's saving that child? All the people that did it the right way.
Exactly. Because you can catch someone before they get into that predicament, right? To fix those people so that they can help the people that are already in that predicament, who you can't take your time machine and make them help them make different decisions.
So to say, well, there's a system that keeps them there. Absolutely. And it's the system you want them to have. It's the government assistance that simply says, poor kid, here's a bunch of money, and does nothing to break that pattern, instead of here's a bunch of people that did not end up that way, and they are going to help so that we don't have a rigged system interjecting.
I'm going to change topics on this, but the philosophy is when you're changing something, we'll change it here. So if you say that student loans are crippling students, right? Mm-hmm. So we don't want to do any of those, because all they're doing is enslaving someone to a student loan that's ruining their lives down the road. Mm-hmm. So you can either take an impossible situation of somebody who's 30 years in a student loan where you can't do anything, or you have a student that's just about to take a student loan. Which one would you pick if you wanted to have the effect? Do you want to get hung up on the one that you really can't do much about because it's already been done? Or do you want to save the person that's not going to make that decision and save them from that system? Which would you pick?
I want to save them.
So
first.
if you're serious about it, you stop issuing the loans today. And then after there are no more of the problems that you're going to create, now you can whittle through and clean up the problems that you made yesterday. But you don't start with the problems that you made yesterday and then today make another one, because while you're working on this one, Bob over here just did the same shit that person that you're trying to save did. Right?
So then I think what ends up happening is then you get an administration in, like we have now, that says, hey, cut it off at the knees, stop the bleeding, stop with the assistance, stop everything, and let's figure this out. Person. And then they say, what a jerk. What an a-hole. Look what you just did to this extreme case that now has nowhere to go.
Yeah, and all you really have to do is prove your case that when you take a student loan, it's going to devastate your life. And then you won't do that again, because if it's truthful, are student loans on the majority a blessing or is it a curse? Right? I hear it when
as someone who's had one, they're awful.
They're a curse.
Yeah.
So if and it's funny, like if you interviewed 100 students, and I'm going to phrase the question one way. Yes, 100 students. You're about to go into college and you're going to be applying for a student loan, and you're going to say, how important are student loans to the structure of society? They're going to say student loans are enabling and empowering and allow me to go to school. It's the best thing in the world.
You couldn't go without one.
And you
have to go.
100 students that have one and are paying the interest on it right now, and they're going to say it is the blight of society. And depending on if you want the thing or you've already had the thing, I've already eaten the fruit, now I got to deal with the tummy ache, that you're going to get two separate feedbacks. But on an objective standpoint, everybody can agree they are destroying kids' lives for the rest of their life. And we need to not have the next guy get one. Might be cruel. He might have to think of other ways, right? Yeah. But the 20 years from now version of him, if you let him give advice, hey, should I take the student loan? 20-year-old version of him? No, don't freaking do it. Run. I don't care if you have to flip burgers.
Yeah. But then again, what they do is keep you in that mindset, because they're going to say, well, no student loan for you. Well, how dare you not give me the opportunity to try to do this, this, and that? And it's like, we're mad at you for saying this is wrong. This is not going to help you. This is going to hurt you. You're the bad guy, not the person with the thing that's hurting you. Not the person that made you think you need, hey, I got this great drug and it's going to make you feel real good and you should take this drug. And you're like, no, don't take the drug. It's bad for you. They're mad at you, not the pusher.
So here's the we got this modeled. You walk into a convenience store and you're a 17-year-old kid who's about to buy cigarettes for the first time illegally because you have to be 18. You walk in and the clerk behind the thing is going to say, right now you're not addicted to this, but I've been a smoker and this is a very expensive habit. You're going to ruin your health. It costs a ton of money. If I can intervene right now and say, don't freaking do this. This is bad for you. If you want to do it, you can absolutely buy this pack, but I want to warn you that this is going to be debilitating and rob from you in the future. Right. Mm-hmm. And then you go to take a student loan. Listen, I've taken student loans and you really shouldn't take this student loan. You should think of 1,000 other ways to take this student loan. Don't do this. It's crippling. This is going to live on your balance sheet until you're 50 years old. Think of 1,000 other ways, but don't freaking do this. We have a model. Take a person that has been adversely affected by it and give the warning on the onset. But instead, we have salespeople who are like, go to college. You're going to make a ton of money. And they're just pushers. That's all they are.
Yeah.
They're just pushers. They're not giving the cigarette warning when they should.
Yeah. Because student loans, I was even lucky enough. I was very lucky when I was born. My grandfather started like funds for all of us. I don't know the name of it, but basically like it was growing as we were aging. We didn't touch it. And by the time we were 21, you could do what you wanted with it. Well, it was meant for college. So I used it for college and I went to YSU and I did not need a student loan until I was a senior. So I was very lucky. I was like, all right, 1 year of student loans. That's not bad. That's 1 year. I can pay that back. Oh, no, you will not, because it is so, you make a payment. Nope, that did absolutely nothing. All right, well, here's my next month's payment. Did nothing. Like your minimum payment, you might as well flush it down the toilet. You're not doing a single thing with that minimum payment. So you got to pay extra to get anywhere. But it's just a little bit. Nope, that didn't matter either. You're still, and it was like, holy crap. The only reason I paid off that student loan is with help from family members. That was it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm working 2 jobs. I'm living at home. I'm not even living in an apartment. I don't even have all the same bills a grown-up has yet. And I still can't get under this crushing weight of this stupid. It's like the most rigged loan you will ever see in your entire life. Doesn't matter.
Do you know why it's rigged?
So that you keep throwing money at them?
Mm-mm.
What?
It's rigged because you're not even supposed to be getting a loan. You're not even qualified. I'm only going to give you a loan if you can't bank trip yourself out of it. Right?
Yeah.
So the only people who should qualify, like if a bank lends you money, right? They come to you and say, what's your ability to pay? They're taking a gamble that sometime in the way future, I'm going to have to wait like 10 years to even start collecting on this loan. And by the time, like I got to wait that long, by the time you're not paying $0 for money that I gave to the university, right? I had to wait 20 years. So I'm going to get paid. And then who ends up paying it? You end up paying it. So if they would qualify people traditionally, like when you pay on a car loan, you know the term of the loan and it's not ridiculous of what you paid in interest and whatever, right? Why? Because you were a qualified applicant. So why is unqualified person can be lent money is beyond me. And who would be willing to do that unless I can crush you for 20 years? Nobody would.
Here's a loan to a 20-year-old that still lives at home.
Yeah, but we basically gave you a payday lender, allowed them to loan you money, and then knowing that you'd cry sometime in the future, but you'd be crying at someone different than the person who lent you the money in the first place. I don't care. You get the money. The university gets a slide right into the front doors, right? So everybody wins except the student. But I think the option of now making the taxpayer, right, who was not invited in the discussion, was not there to collect anything that the university collected or the bank collected. We were not involved in any of the we were not given the chance to say no when you and they were making all those bad decisions on our behalf.
Yeah.
But I'm going to come along and waste my money to rescue from.
I'd be like, hey, Joe, I can't pay this. I'm going to need you.
So here's the way it would work in the business world, right? You're a student, you come to me, right? And you're like, hey, I want to go to school and I want to be lent money. Right. And I'm like, oh, cool. Let's talk about, I'm going to give you $100,000 for your career. What's in it for me? Okay. Now we got to negotiate. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm not even going to care about that money for 10 years. But here's what we're going to do. When you get a job, like what are you studying? And do I think it has marketability? You know, I'm going to disagree with some of your choices on what you're going to pick, because if I'm in this with you, you're going to pick something that has a high dollar amount because I'd like to get my money back and then some. And now what I'm going to do is I'm not going to have you pay me back for 10 years, but when you get that really good job, I'm right there with you. We're partners. Now you're going to make 50% of what you put in there, and then you're going to use 50% to pay me back because I'm your partner. Like, we're in this together. So I would have way different stipulations if it was really my money is at risk, and I would make you do certain things so that I get paid back faster at a certain level. Do you notice this is a completely different conversation than the one that we're actually having about student loans? Because we're pretending like that was just free money that some sugar daddy gave you, rather than the person who needs to make something off of you for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, real life, when I went to school, you could have been like, all right, you need some money. What is it you're going to pursue? I would have said, I don't know yet.
And I'm going to say,
I'm just going to college.
Yeah, I'm going to say you're a bad bet then, because I need to make my money back.
If you're like, I'm going to try a couple classes, see what ideas pop up. Maybe you'd be a bad prospect.
I would say denied, right? If you said something, lawyer, doctor, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, my first semester, I was early childhood education. And I went, I in no way want to do that at all. I don't even know what I was thinking. I'm going to try something else. Oh, here's money. Go try something else.
Let's just say no money was given to you. You can't get a student loan. You actually have to go to school for a couple hours every day and go to work. So you write the daily check.
That's what I did.
Hold on. You go to the bursar's office and you write your work check goes right into paying the bursar's office for those classes. Now, are you looking at every class? Would you take a class like lesbian dance theory when you have to pay $300 for that class? Would you put a little bit?
I guess if I wanted to be a lesbian dancer, if it meant something to you.
But one that did not connect.
One that wasn't going to put you where you wanted to be.
You wrote the check. It came right out of your bank account. Then you're like, I don't want to take these stupid classes that I have to pay for. Basket weaving. I'm not taking basket weaving. It cost me $300. I don't like it that much. But when it's somebody else, you were paying for it, but they hid the payment from you. So you wouldn't be suspicious of why you had to take a class that wasn't even connected with making a living sometime in the future. You would have way different qualifications.
And this is like the sunglass example with my daughter. Like, you'd probably be better with your sunglasses if you paid for it.
Right.
She had an instance twice now at school. She went to get something in the cafeteria, went to eat it, looked funny, and she looked, and the expiration date was like a week ago or something. She's like, ugh. And so we said, oh, did you take it in? Did you show them, hey, by the way, these ones are expired? She's like, no, I just threw it away. We're like, what the heck? Well, then the second time, I went back. I went to get this other thing. And again, it was expired. All of these are real old. Oh, so you went and you told somebody. No, I threw it away. And I said, at what point do you stop throwing away my money? If you want to go and take a gamble and look at it and not say anything about it, quit throwing it away. You could pay yourself. Pay yourself to say, wonder if this will be expired or not. Here's my money. Yep, it is. Psh.
Yeah, I mowed the grass for 2 hours, and this thing I'm holding represents the 2 hours that I was in the hot sun doing something I didn't need to. Should I just like throw it away? Or should I be like, no, I'm going to lose an immediate value for my labor, and I need to get another one so I can at least feel good that I got good value. Changes your brain wiring.
Yep. Where is Julie in all of this? You think she would be like, no, we have to give people these things.
Our level of meanness has gone off the charts, so Julie has given up on us.
I think even Julie agrees. I think this is something that is very difficult to argue against unless you were just pushing back because you were taught that one side is good and one side is bad and one side is right and one side is wrong, regardless of whether or not it makes any sense. And this is the environment we are in currently. This is our political climate. It doesn't matter why somebody is doing something, the motivations behind it. It doesn't matter if it makes sense or not. It's just who said it.
All right, so let me make a Julie argument because this is I've been through enough.
Julie's probably just busy.
All right, Julie, this is your argument. Joe, you call yourself a Christian and you want to take birthday cakes away from children. How Christian-like is that? Respond. You're Joe now. I have to play Julie, or you can be Kelin. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, you're unchristian because you want to take this away from them. I'd be like, as a Christian, if there's someone who can't afford a birthday cake, come to me and ask me, and I'll help you get the birthday cake.
Booyah. Yeah. Because
Julie!
we brought Julie in.
Won't he do it?
So, but anyway, you nailed it, because a Christian-like behavior is personally connecting with another human being and you doing the thing. So I'm not suggesting that you don't go buy the birthday cake.
Yeah.
I'm saying make someone else responsible for the birthday cake.
Yeah.
It's not a Christian.
I'll say, listen, I'm not going to give you this money, this benefit, because it's harmful to you. Because you're going to get stuck in a rut of which you will never climb out of, because it's got all these other downsides for one birthday cake. So I'm going to allow you to make changes to get yourself out of your situation, to better your health, to better your finances, to better your situation. And for this one instance, I will give you a birthday cake.
And you cared about them because you were playing a longer game than what you wanted in the short term. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we had to make an argument on Julie. That might not even be what you said.
Yeah.
But
Julie says, I think the loan system needs to be reformed for purposes of education.
Okay. But they already solved this. So here's what happens. You have it's a corrupted institution is why. So you go to a school, right? And then the school did such a great job at creating someone that goes out and adds value to society. And then when you make all of your money, you give money back to the university for the next crop of students, right? But if we subsidize it, then we have a lot of people that really aren't going to use that education. They could have done just as well if they didn't go to the education, but because the college is a business, they need to make a bunch of money. So if they can get a easy pass right from high school to almost 100% of the people to college, they make a lot more money, right? Mm-hmm. But they create an immense amount of debt for the people who went there. But if you do it and you take it serious and then you set the world on fire and you send that money back, that is basically you loaning the next generation a free ticket to be able to go to colleges. Don't make it capital based that way. So
this might be confusing because I'm speaking as I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But I've heard of situations like if a what is the word? When you have a local government and the people that do the people that talk about what they need in the local government, like, hey, we need engineers, we need medical, we need what the heck is the word I'm looking for? It's a department of a local government. They work with business.
Chamber of Commerce?
No, not Chamber of Commerce. They meet with companies that say, hey, I want to bring my business to your area. Is there a market for it?
Is this a game show password? Because I'm failing.
I feel like I'm having a stroke. Why can't I know the freaking word. Somebody help me out here. Department, local government. They work with businesses coming to the area. They development, economic development.
Okay.
Good Lord. Okay. An economic development department in the area is like, hey, we don't have workers in our area to staff businesses like, I don't know, car building or whatever. That go to the local schools, universities and say, this is an area we are really lacking. We really need help so that this big business can come to our area. We need trained professionals and people who are skilled in that. So money goes to educational programs in the schools that teach people those labor skills. They then go work. Is this anyway in the system like you were talking about, or
close? You got super close. I actually like this idea. So you have that economic development. They poll universities to be able to create the skill sets that's going to be delivered to corporations, and corporations fund the creation of the talent that they need. And so you have this system where maybe even, let's just say a city wanted to market themselves as an engineering area, right? Maybe they don't have enough corporations to be able to fuel that. so they can front end taxpayer money to be able to create engineers that then can develop an industry that wasn't there before. So I could say half of it could be economic development in prospecting, and half of it could be in commercial being funded. And then you're not going to the taxpayer who don't give two shits about what you're doing and make them responsible for paying for it.
Yeah.
Make it and tie it so it's the way you don't make it a corrupt system, because that could what we just illustrated there could be corrupted in 2 seconds. But make it so that if I'm a company and they're like, hey, we're going to train some IT professionals out of this university, give me a say in what I'm looking for. So you're not just going to take some of my money and spread it out over your friends.
Yeah.
You have the intention of delivering that skill set back to me. So I give you money. It creates the deal. The college is my partner now. The city is my partner now. And you reward me for creating a whole generation in the skill set.
Yeah. Like you can't just float money to this educational system and not then get the workers
right
out.
You give everybody gets good value.
Hey, we funded the mechanics program. You now made 50 something qualified skilled mechanics that are now working in this industry that we brought to our area to better our area. Here's your check.
Yeah, all you owe me is give me some qualified candidates that I got to write the curriculum of what they need to be taught so they could be useful in my business. I use them to be able to make money. I take a portion of that money in recruiting and send it back out to the school. The school gets to generate another person in that skill set. It's a well-oiled machine as long as it doesn't corrupt.
Yeah.
Julie types some stuff out.
Back in the day, my dad went to the service for GI Bill, worked 2 jobs and raised 2 kids and still needed financial help, and got it for reasonable rates and paid it off quickly. Couldn't happen today.
That's right, because we have inflated the cost of education. The universities did this to themselves, so they cannot cry when they took education and built monuments among themselves, made it not about the education, but the free flow of kids that come through that door that have these bulletproof financial packages that let them spend just enormous amount of money on things that do not place people in the job market. They F themselves, and they're going to have a reckoning there.
Yeah. I've always wondered, like, how the heck did people back in the day do it? Like, go to school, have a house, have a family. My dad went to law school with a wife and 3 kids. I think he was working for the road department or something at the time. Like, how is it that we have come so far from the days of like one income, a wife and children stayed home in a house and they survived? Now it's like, oh my God, everybody better work. You better downsize.
College is a scam. So I saw this graphic and they basically had the number of students, administrators, professors, and whatever. And they had a growth curve to see how colleges have grown. And it was a little eye-opening because we'll just pick 1950 to today. What do you think the growth in students that go to college has happened in that time frame?
From the 1950s?
From the 1950s, percentage-wise.
Oh, God, I don't even know. The growth from then to now, how many go to college?
Yep.
I'd say more than half.
Okay, it doubled. Okay, so it was a 95% growth of students that go to college. So the student body has grown to double what they were in the 1950s. Administrators and bureaucracy. Do you think it was proportional? So let's just say you had 1,000 students, and then you had so many professors and so many administrators. What do you think the growth percentage in administrators are that don't teach people things? They manage and they have.
They manage the business.
Business of the college. What do you think that growth was?
Probably a lot.
700%. So it's 7 times as administrators.
Holy crap.
So do you think administrators have a high cost to them? Do you think marble floors and big stadiums and named
offices.
buildings do you think that all costs things? Walk through a university and see if you think they're spending a lot of money on image versus what you get when you're with a book in a classroom in front of a professor. I doubt that the education is better now. I bet you that most of your classes are fluff classes, right? So you want to be an engineer. Well, half the students are like you, have no idea what they want to do. So they have to fluff you with a bunch of classes that don't help you go get a job.
Yeah, you take your electives.
Yes. Yeah, elective fluff. So they added so much cost right? In so many different departments that do not come down to making your investor good value for having put money into you. They balloon the cost of it so much, like it's a racket. It's an actual absolute scam.
And I always say too, like, not that I regret going to college. I feel like there were some experiences I had there that were valuable, but I will say I got a bachelor's degree, and to this day, I have never needed it. I just haven't. Like, other than maybe being in a job interview, saying, by the way, I have this degree, and someone saying, oh, that's good. You know, maybe if it comes down to you and another person and you guys are exactly the same.
So tell me this. Let's just say today you go to a car dealership and you buy a $30,000 car and you park it in your driveway. All right. You look for a little while and you're like, man, that car, I haven't needed that thing. What's your relationship with the thing that you bought that you really haven't used? And you had a bicycle and you had another car. You never even used that thing. What would occur to you in the reasonable brain of Kelin?
Okay, don't need that.
Okay, you would sell it, right? So if you could take your bachelor's degree and sell it back to the university because you really didn't need it, that I would feel like you'd have a bad relationship if the car dealership or nobody would buy that car that you haven't used. You'd look at it and say, man, that was a freaking bad decision.
I mean, and part of me is like, well, did I learn skills getting that thing that helped me in the future? And I think, well, okay, my degree is communication.
Oh, this is rational. You were at the car dealership and you met somebody that you took a yoga class with later. So if you wouldn't been buy that car, you would have never been in that yoga class. So now you're making a different time. I'm going to go buy another car because there's no way that I have other skill sets and opportunities. That is a failed logic.
I know.
Failed freaking logic.
I've always justified it by saying communications degree, did a lot of public speaking courses. Oh, so did that make me a better public speaker? Did that give me experience? Mm-hmm. And then
it's called coping.
Yeah.
Feel better about that car just sitting in your driveway.
And then I think myself, I said, okay, when I graduated, what did I want to do? Well, I wanted to go into radio. Why? Well, I started an internship at the radio station while in college. I really liked it, got to know people. And when I graduated, they hired me. Could have done that
without buying the car. For sure. The absolute truth is you wouldn't make that decision again, knowing what you know now, and you would have figured out ways to get that same thing, the value out of that thing, without having to buy the car, because that was a very expensive anchor into those opportunities.
My bosses at the radio station didn't even have a degree. And then the boss after that job didn't have a degree.
You see how scammy it is. They have you victimized in your decision, and they've done everything they can to make it so that, no, you absolutely need it. And there was so much value in it. That's a slimy salesperson that's telling you that the thing you shouldn't have done, you did, or the thing you didn't have to do, you did. And I don't want you to feel bad and ask for your money back, right? So I'm going to tell you, you know what? That was the anchor point. That was the hinge pin that made all that other stuff happen.
Do you think there used to be a time years ago that, yes, it very much held weight to get a college degree?
When it was, right? Scarce. When you sought after college education because it was hard to find college educated people. If you make everybody college educated, all you do is devalue what an education means. So your bleeding heart says that everybody should be educated, but all you do is make not educated and educated the same thing, because now you're no different than everybody else. How do you stand out as an educated person? You don't, because everybody's educated.
That's true. Yeah. Now I'm like running through my head, like, what were the things in my life that actually got me where I wanted to be?
It was not that $30,000 car.
It was the internship that I could have done, whether I was in school or not. Didn't have to. I continued it because I took a course that you need an internship program, but I said, I already have an internship. Can I just apply the credits to it? So I already did it.
But you wouldn't feel that way about any other company that wrangled you into doing something that was not in your best interest. And then later on, you have the consequences and they made their money, and you wouldn't defend them. You'd be as pissed off. So I bring you into an amusement park, right? And I walk you through a line to get a picture, and you're witnessing all these people that get their picture taken and paying $10 for a picture. Go through that, and you're like, picture for $10? I could print a picture for like a penny. Why did that thing cost $10? And now they wrangled you into, like, do you feel bad when they try to push you into a purchase that you would never, if they were off on the corner taking pictures and you could avoid them easily, you would walk right by them. You would never make that decision. So why did you buy the picture when they walked you straight through there?
Yeah.
You feel dirty because they tricked you into buying an overpriced picture because everybody else was doing it.
Back in my day, you go to college if you want to make something of yourself.
They tell you that. That's good marketing.
Get educated.
If I could somehow lay it on and say, you know what, all the best people here, all the most prosperous people at my amusement park, they'll buy the pictures.
You know what my big gift was when I graduated college? Like, you're going to need this going out into the world. Was an expensive suit for job interviewing.
Mm-hmm.
Think that suit in any way, shape, or form mattered?
Felt like it. At the moment, it felt like it.
Like I might need this. Well, guess what? I already had a path set to do what I wanted to do. Didn't involve a suit. In fact, I took that suit and I used it. I was doing like local, use the term modeling loosely. Like, I knew a photographer that was taking pictures for businesses and people like that. And they needed a business looking person. Hey, I got a suit. I can be in the set and I can make money from it. Well, that was good. But yeah, it's this mindset of this is what we used to do in the day and what you needed. And so we just keep doing it, even if the times have changed and it's not the same need. Joseph says, I retired from Eastman Kodak. I could not have been hired without a degree.
Yep. And that's where, when degrees were valuable, because they actually looked at what you took and it spoke about your credentials. The product of universities is mass output. It has nothing to do with the quality of education or the quality of critical thinking or any of that. So what am I buying? If I'm buying a college educated person, like, what's the advantage on my side? If you were to sell me on whether I want to pick somebody who doesn't understand math very well and got them talked into a terrible scam, do I really want that person? Versus somebody who had to work their ass off and really qualify to get into that school. That's somebody who's like, they're going to fight to do a great job because they have what it takes. They have the capacity.
It used to be, and maybe it still is, I don't really know. Maybe somebody knows. Didn't you used to have a degree in anything to be like a substitute teacher?
Yes.
And it doesn't matter what it was in,
right.
Just a degree.
A degree.
Is that still a thing?
I think so, yeah.
How do you feel about that? Like, if you're like, hey, we need a sub for our English class today.
In an education system that took themselves seriously, one day of not being able to educate with somebody who's specialized in that subject is a wasted taxpayer day. You add up the costs of that day, and all of those kids got shafted. I'm really super focused on the quality of product after you pay for something. We all know as consumers that if we spend $1, we want to feel like we got better value than $1. And on that day, when you bring in the fill-in person that has no specialty and basically just let everybody sleep through that day, that was shafting.
That's why I always wondered why it didn't matter. If you're substituting in a science class and your degree's in like English or art,
there's a practical reason, because you can't staff every specialty with a person in that department.
Yeah.
So you want to get the person that is just qualified enough to be a placeholder until the real teacher gets back. That's just, it's a cost thing.
Did you, when you were a kid, did you guys ever like mess with the sub or?
Listen, when the sub came in the door, I was kicked out in the hall before I did anything because my relationship with subs was not stellar.
Why?
I was a problem. I caused problems.
Well, what we did, we had this one particular man and we loved when he was the sub. Like, number one, he was funny. He loved to joke around. He would do impressions. He was a crack up. He was a good time. But we all knew he loved to talk about like history or things going on in it, like government. He just he was kind of like you in a way where he wanted to just like talk about something deep and meaningful or something interesting or something about history. And the moment you asked him, somebody said, think of a question, any question, doesn't matter what it is. We all knew we could get that man on a tangent until the bell rang. And, I didn't have time to give you guys. All right. No homework then. We'll see you another time. We did no work. We did no lesson. We just heard from him who was really passionate about something he wanted to share with us. And we were like, I have more minutes. Just keep him talking. And I feel bad saying that. We were all scamming him because he truly was interesting. And it really was a more interesting class than whatever we would have done that day. But I think people took advantage. And
No, people do that?
they're like, we have a sub. We're going to watch a movie or get him talking, and then we won't have to do work.
Mm. This was fun.
I want to know why you got put in the hallway. What would you do to the sub?
I was a little bit of a class clown. I really would. I took more liberties when subs were around to be disruptive. And if I'm going to be 100% chance that I'm going to be disruptive, they just cut me out of the equation right off the get-go.
Why are you disruptive in class?
I just was. I like to make people laugh. I love to tell jokes. And
You wanted the attention?
I did.
Did you get the attention? Did people thought you were funny?
Yes. Yeah.
And that was more valuable. You're like, I will get in trouble.
Listen, school did nothing for me. Nothing for me.
Maybe because you were disruptive in class.
No, it was not.
Did they ever say, Joe Danyi, if you just applied yourself and paid attention, you could really go far?
That was every Tuesday. Yeah, that was every. You just described Trump's cabinet. Sorry, had to relate. What cabinet?
How did you just describe Trump's cabinet?
Connect it for us.
So he did have
placeholders. No specialty. I get what she was saying. So we'll talk about that.
Okay, so like people thinking that his cabinet members are not qualified to do what they do. They're substitutes. Is that it? Like RFK is not a doctor. Why is he telling us about medical stuff?
That disconnection, I usually disagree with. I mean, there's an element. If you the executive branch, the executives, the institution. Do you want your specialized people to be in the executive position or the practice, right?
Yeah.
So I need people who are in the executive branch managing hordes of people and being able to coordinate and organize their efforts. So know the policy, break down the policy, push policy out to the people who are actually going to do this stuff.
We kind of see that in hospitals, right?
Yeah.
You know,
so maybe you're a doctor and after you retire, you become an administrator. So you have the specialty and the administration versus a CEO that's just good at running people. Like if you were to take someone like Elon Musk, who's really good at managing large amounts of people. Let's just say we put him in an industry of fishery, right? We know he has no expertise in a fishery. Do I think that there are going to be certain things as the executive of that deal, making money, revenue, advertising, marketing, people, policies, and whatever? Do you think he would do a good job in a fishery that he would at Tesla? I do believe. I think his experience at running large organizations would translate to running a large organization. Do I think that he's going to go out into the fishery and have some objections to how they're raising the fish? Probably not. I don't necessarily think that'd be the best use of his skill set.
Yeah, like when people get on this idea of like, and we could use RFK Jr. He's not a doctor. Why should we listen to him? Okay, fine. He's not a doctor. He's not an MD. But let's see. Has he read all the studies? Has he read multiple studies? Has he delved into some of the topics? Yes. Has he worked as an attorney where he had to build a case against something and he had to look into it and he had to find evidence and he had to learn how something works? Yes, multiple times. Is he surrounded by the people that are providing that information, that are conducting the studies, that are saying, hey, I think this or I think this, and providing evidence for that? Yes. But because he didn't take an exam at a university that gave him a degree that says you're a doctor, he's unqualified?
Do we want that? Like,
right.
So
you can have the person that said, well, I went to med school, I got my degree, I'm a doctor. All right, okay, well, why don't you go do this job?
We'll play a would you rather, right? Would you take a person that knows cancer research and put them at the head of the NIH, right? That knows how to interact with patients and be able to, take tests and be able to translate them down to what they should do, but doesn't have the skill set to manage large organizations and roll out policy and whatnot? Is the specialization enough to overcome the fact that you are an executive over an entire department of people? I think it's misunderstanding that isn't a specialization group. So in a perfect world, they have both leadership and specialization. But if I have to pick one of them, I'm going to have a higher emphasis put on their management skills and an adequate level on what you said, which is if I don't have the exact specialization, I have someone in my cabinet, a lieutenant that does know that. And when I need to know that, I go fetch the information from the specialized person. And now I know it too.
Yeah. Carter said, most talented cabinet in history. Fauci is a doctor and his advice required a presidential pardon.
Good point.
Yep. Julie says, I have to agree with RFK in taking on fluoride. The study was done by JAMA in 2019 and nothing was done with it. Okay. So if you agree with RFK taking on this thing, looking into it, giving you information based off of what he knows about it. If somebody with a doctor behind their name said, no, don't look into it, you'll be fine. Do you trust him because there's a doctor in his title, or do you trust the person that you know is actively involved?
I have to give Julie credit because that was a little crack in the dam as far as agreeing with someone who you find disagreeable for the most part. So I give you a lot of credit, Julie, for being able for you to say that. Now, I agree with Carter in this respect. I think that the institutions are all so corrupted, right, that if you put a specialization head, they would look to insulate their industry rather than mess with and push on the status quo of their industry. So if you're a drug rep salesman, and then when you're put at the department head, you want to insulate sales for all of the people that you know, all of your friends and relationships make all of their money off of the sale of pharmaceuticals. So could I trust you to make a decision that then hampers the industry, does the right thing, does the data-driven thing, but then hurts the industry in all of the people that you're friendly with? So I actually trust them a little bit more that they're not an institutional bureaucrat or a person that practices in that department. They can be an executive who can objectively dismantle things that need dismantled. Like if you put Randy Weingart, right? She's the head union the head union of the teachers union.
Okay.
I said that wrong, but the head of the teachers union. And you were like, oh, super specialized, knows education, was a practicing teacher. And you put Randy Weingarten in the position of Department of Education. Could Randy Weingarten ever make a decision that was good for education but bad for teachers? Never in a million years, because she is captured by the role she played prior to being in that position, that she will always come down 100% of the time on what benefits the benefits or the pensions or the rates of labor for the people that she used to represent. She could never make an objective call like that.
Yeah, it's true. They almost got to be a little bit removed from it.
For sure.
Linda, wow, there are plenty of doctors that are not up to par. Many know medications, but can't think outside the box. I prefer to follow someone who is very interested in the subject and spends more time researching that subject. RFK has been doing this for years.
Yep.
That's what I said.
I will take that guy over the dogma guy any day.
Yeah. To me, the whole not a doctor, you don't know anything shows how little about him you know. You could get someone with the title that has done nothing, that knows nothing about someone without the title.
Was there ever a time where what you knew about RFK is that he was a quack? Was there ever a time where when you heard that name, you were like, oh, this guy's off the reservation?
Me personally?
Mm-hmm.
No, because I did not really know anything about him until I started diving into when he basically said he wants to run for presidency. My brother really liked him. I was I don't care either way, but let me go ahead and look. And I liked what I knew about him from what I found. And then people said, well, he's crazy, right? I said, why is he crazy? All this makes sense. All this makes sense. Oh, but he got a brain-eating amoeba and he cut the head off a whale and he blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, he seems like a pretty sane guy to me. Makes sense. Can you show me what story you're talking about? And then they'd show me the story and I'd be like, that's dumb. No, I still have not been, still don't think he's discredited.
I have this machine that I put people through.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it works in two directions. What you hear about someone and the longer they talk. Okay. So if you come up with a person you think X, and the longer they talk, your opinion goes up about them, then that's a person that has been improved by more conversation and more information.
Yeah.
If the person you thought something of, and the longer they talk, it diminishes how you feel about them, then it was like they had the ability, either the media, their platforms, the thing that they presented was complementary to them, then they were marketed well. So if you took someone like, Beyonce, right? And you're like, how's her musical gift? And you think probably very high of her musical gifts. But now we send you and Beyonce into a recording studio where you get to spend an entire week with her and you get to see all the mechanics of what makes her tick. And either your opinion is going to be like, oh, it's way high, she's not quite as good as I thought she was, or it's going to stay the same, or it's going to be like, holy crap, like what she does on stage isn't even enough for me to have appreciated everything Beyonce is capable of doing. So I do not put a lot of weight before I've allowed someone to talk a really long time. RFK was one of those people where I thought I was probably not going to think he knew a lot, it was connected to a lot, and researched a lot. But the longer he talked on those platforms, the more impressed I became with him.
Yeah.
Because my objections were always fulfilled. Because I would impugn anybody who just talks BS and wants to believe in conspiracy theories and was way off base. And then the people that he talked to, the people that gave him credibility, the people that he cited in research studies, the ability to try to prove himself wrong and stuff, it hit all of my marks in someone who wants to be wrong, but if it survives him being wrong, then buys into it. So he was not a conspiracy theory after that process.
And the fact that he will so willingly discuss any objection you might have with him. He doesn't just cover something up. He doesn't say, I'm not talking about that. He doesn't say those people are lying. If there is any truth to the matter, like the whole, he cut off this head, blah, blah, blah. He did. And you can find out exactly what happened, what he actually did, why he did it, how it ended up, everything in there, the whole dead bear cub in Central Park or whatever it was. That happened. Listen to him as to why, when, how, and you might not like him still, but he will address everything. And to me, that's like, all right, well, at least I now know then, I know where he stands. I know the information I'm getting and I can go ahead and conclude it from, rather than someone that I think is just putting their best foot forward, is just sort of going to glaze over anything that might paint them in a bad light. I really want you to feel some kind of way about me, so I'm not going to really be my authentic self. And then you feel like you can't really trust it. It's like, he's like, yeah, I did something really stupid. This was so dumb. Here's what I did. It was dumb.
You could trust that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Carter says, I wonder why CNN and MSNBC chose not to show the complete cabinet meeting where Biden hid from his cabinet. Trump puts it all out there, and the media now tries to hide how capable and that transparency. Like Kamala Harris is one of those people. The longer she talks, the dumber you think she is. She really is,
and hides things and tries to glaze over.
And that like hitting my marks where pump someone up to a certain point, but then throttle it so that you can't see them talk a long time. I know what you're trying to do there. You're trying to take a real big dummy, right?
Yeah.
And lay down cover fire so that they don't expose themselves as not being as good as you built them up to be.
Yeah. And it's interesting because my brother sometimes will still send me snippets of either like Carolyn Leavitt talking for the press conference or an interview that Trump did somewhere. And it's funny now, he'll send it to me and I'll be like, oh, I already watched that live. I watched that live. So many people, I think, are just getting those snippets or just seeing the edited version and feeling some kind of way. But if you go on YouTube, the White House has a YouTube, CNN, Fox News, all the other things, where they set up a camera in the room and you watch everything as it unfolds, what was said, when it was said, the context in which it was said. Go off of that. Not like, oh, well, they reported that he did this. And then they show you a little snippet of it. And you see nothing that was said before that made him say that.
Yep. Did you see the Gretchen Whitmer own?
Gretchen
Whitmer. So
I don't know what that is.
Governor of Michigan, and not a fan of Trump at all. Like big critic of Trump. And so Trump went up there for a rally on his 100th day. He visited a couple of the auto workers. I don't know where they were, but Gretchen was there because she's obviously the governor of Michigan. And Trump called her up to the podium to say a few words. Okay. And she was so freaking uncomfortable because to be in the same room and to make it look like she was part of the 100-day celebration, like I'm sure she got so much criticism for even being there. She even came up to the podium and said, I was really not supposed to speak here. But since then, since the penalty's already been served and she got pulled up on stage with Trump and being associated that way, she was highly complimentary to what he did when he was at that rally and what he's planning on doing for Michigan. So it's like it's the weirdest thing to happen because you're like like when you see Chuck Schumer sitting next to him at a thing, you're like, they're gonna fight, they're gonna like punch each other. And when you see them being actual nice to each other, it's
cordial.
Yeah.
You realize what a freaking show all this is.
Yes, for sure.
Like they will make a show out of anything. That's their ratings getter.
It's politics.
Like, yes. Julie says the sycophancy makes me sick and I can't give any of them any credit. I have to define sycophancy.
Sycophant is someone like who will just butter you up and all in and say nice things about you.
Yeah, because during this meeting they were like, "Oh, and President Trump, I really want to thank you for your leadership and your blah," and they would kiss his butt a little bit before they gave their report.
And I can agree with Julie that there's a lot of ass kissing.
I think there's a lot of reporters that do a lot of that. Like you can tell if you watch whether it's a press or a media press conference or anybody Trump speaking, you can tell the Fox News correspondents because they instantly butt kiss and they instantly like their question will be so biased. Like we've all seen that the Dems have been blah, 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 and they're being ridiculous and blah, blah, blah. What do you say when they become so childish and they blah, blah, blah? I was like, that question was so full of bias and agenda pushing. It's ridiculous.
But if you're annoyed with the sycophancy, you have to be annoyed with the people who are critical by default because it's the other side of the equation.
Yeah.
So if you have someone like Chuck Schumer who can't come objectively and say something nice because all they want to do is pummel you, then the sycophancy is going to happen because you have those blind hatred people on the other side.
Yeah.
Equally as annoyed. I don't want to see ass kissing and I don't want to see the blind hatred. I just want to see authenticity of professional people trying to get stuff done, period.
I agree. What is the fine people hoax?
The fine people. So Trump did a rally and he referred, there were some protesters that were part of a white nationalist group. And he referred in his speech that other than the white nationalists, there's some fine people. And when they cut the clip, they made it seem like he was saying the white nationalists were the fine people.
Fine people. Ah, that does sound familiar.
But his wording is so terrible. He makes it so easy for the clipping and editing people to get it to sound like he said something horrible. I don't know. He got to work on that.
Which is why I think he is now so outlandish and ridiculous in things he says. Because I think yes, 100% ego is involved. Not saying it's not. But I think you took someone who maybe already has an ego and you made it so abundantly clear that it does not matter what he says. He could say, I just want world peace. I want to feed all the poor people. And I hate that we're all fighting. And it will be edited to say, I hate poor people. I want fighting. You know, like
that is absolutely true.
And it's like nothing he says you will listen to or understand or take. So So who cares? She's probably like, I'll say whatever I want because you're going to twist
Yeah,
it.
he's just gonna walk, and we're like, we don't know when he's joking or not because he jokes about everything and he says outlandish things. Like when we write it, people are like, "Oh, there he goes joking again."
Yes, like freaking JD Vance back when he said the weird, they're eating dogs, they're eating cats, and JD Vance, they're like, well, why would he say that? And JD Vance says, we didn't make that up. We were told that was happening. Our constituents told us that. You guys weren't reporting on it until we said it. What's the headline? JD Vance admits to making up the cats and dogs store. That's not what he said.
Terrible. Janet says that's not true. Tell me what's not true. I don't know if the fine people or the fine. Let's see. We missed a couple of them.
Carter said like it never happened in the Biden administration. They are all butt kissers.
That is politics. That is politics.
Yeah, there are butt kissers on both sides. Absolutely. And you saw that just like I can tell a Fox News correspondent that's kissing Trump's butt. You see that every time Biden spoke and he gave a speech that was just barely coherent. And as soon as it's done, all the NBC commentators, well, what a fine speech from Biden, who's just bringing unity to the situation.
You had Chris Matthews, his lips used to quiver over certain candidates, and he used to get so super excited. His legs would jiggle as his horniness came for whatever candidate was there. And he was a commentator.
I swear what they would do is when Biden would go to speak, they must have given every commentator points to talk about when it's done, regardless of what he said. Say that he talked about this and he talked about this and he said this, because I'm like, did we all just hear the same speech? You were so clearly biased for him that you can't even admit. When was an NBC or a CNN correspondent going to come on and just be like, what the hell was that? Never. Just like Fox News, you will never hear them criticize Trump because they're all going to be biased, and it's so obvious.
There's a couple of the commentators that are actually pretty good that are, the only ones I'll watch on Fox News. I think it's John Roberts, the silver-haired guy. There's one other guy. Anyway, they have the ability to say hard things to those guys, but they do it respectfully. They do push back on it. Like the Jesse Waters and those guys that are just also very ass kissy with Trump. They know their place. You're trying to make it in politics, and kissing the ass of somebody makes them friendly to you, and you get more stories and you get more attention. So I get it. The business of news is nothing, that.
And you see it in the live interview where they try to trap him. You can see it happening.
For sure.
I'll watch Trump do an interview with, I don't know her name. She's on NBC. And she'll be like, so are you saying that you blah, blah, blah? And he's like, no, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is this. So you're saying blah, blah, blah. And he's like, am I talking? No, I did not say that. Stop trying to make it sound like I'm saying that. I am saying this. So we can go on record then with blah. And I was just like, what? Why are we even here?
Dog on a bone.
Yes.
Let's see. Trump said he wants world peace. Janet says, I could be on board with that, but he never talks about anything but hate, making fun of people.
Not true.
That's a little bit of an exaggeration. Give it up, Carter. This is your guy now.
I love
Julian Carter. I love it.
Yeah.
Isn't that all presidents? Julie, they don't need me. And Janet says, no president is perfect and no political party is perfect.
Of course not.
So far from being perfect. I hate the fact that people celebrate people in politics because they're just not good people. They're not even good examples. If I were to sit down with my kid and I said, this is who I want you to be like, it would not be a politician 100% of the time.
No, it's a game. It's a show. They are characters playing a part in many instances. I am curious, though, if you were to take anyone in the public eye, and it could be like Elon Musk, RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, anyone on the Democrats, Tim Walz, anybody. If there was one that you're like, all right, if you've got to look up or model after someone, who would you pick?
In politics?
Yeah, any of those players. Anybody that we see sort of on that stage right now.
I wouldn't.
You want to go for Elon? I'm not saying it's got to be perfect. None of them are perfect. None of them are like
the closest to my
The
values
closest.
lined up.
Yeah.
None of them.
Really?
None of them.
I think I would fangirl a little if I met RFK Jr. I'll admit that.
Hold on.
I would fangirl a little.
Is there a little attraction to his body and
Listen,
mind?
he's a good-looking dude. He is. That is probably the best-looking 70-year-old I've ever seen. But that's not
Okay. In politics,
Yeah.
is there any attraction to anyone who you disagree with ideologically, but they are a total yes?
You mean like I find them attractive even though I don't like their policies?
Yeah, little man crush or woman crush. I'm not here to judge.
I don't know much about him, but Justin Trudeau was a handsome man.
The handsome Bernie
He's
Sanders.
handsome, yeah. Hegseth isn't bad looking.
Okay.
RFK, I think, is a
Wait, I didn't need a laundry list. I mean, you thought this through.
Wait, this is who else is good looking? Who else? I'm trying to give both sides a chance.
Primarily, there aren't a whole lot of attractive people in politics on either side.
Barack Obama could be considered to be handsome. Well,
I'll give you time. We're building this list.
Who are attractive people in politics? Now, AOC's pretty.
Are we talking just about physical attributes?
That's what I thought we were talking about.
All right. Well, let's go through all physical ones.
Physically attractive.
Physically attractive.
Okay, yeah.
What about people who are just a certain way that is attractive, maybe not having the best looks, but still would be an attractive person to you?
I found Barack Obama to be very likable.
Okay.
He was a likable person. So I could see people kind of being attracted to him regardless of any policy, regardless of anything he does in office. He comes across as attractive in the way that you could be like, oh, that's a likable guy. I'm going to go have a beer with him kind of feeling to him. I think RFK is the same way. And I'm not talking about just physical looks. I've seen him on podcasts where I would absolutely be like, that's a fun dude to hang out with. JD Vance. JD Vance is someone I saw him. It might have been on Rogan where I was like, I would hang out with him. He seems like again, regardless of anything he does politically, personality wise, when he was in the mode of we're going to take politics out of it and just sort of like shoot the breeze and chill, seemed like he would be someone I would hang out with.
All right. I would only pick AOC, and three things. I think she's attractive.
Mm-hmm.
I like that she is really feisty. She would be really fun to tangle with. Yeah. But I would stab myself in the eyeball if I had to be around her.
Just stop talking.
Yes, I would. So she hits two of the three check boxes for me. The press secretary, she's rather attractive.
Melania's pretty.
I don't find Melania attractive.
No.
I don't. I don't. She's just not my type.
I even think Michelle Obama was pretty.
Nah, too manly, too big.
She's buff.
She's big. Yeah, I'm not real attracted to that. Very few of them.
Oh, I thought Julie. She said Pete Buttigieg. I can't ever say his last name.
Buttigieg.
You know who I mean?
Yeah,
is a guy that deserves a chance but won't get in this society.
I
thought she was gonna say was fairly attractive or something.
I really like Pete Buttigieg. I do. And as a person, I like Pete Buttigieg. I don't like his policies or politics at all. I don't think he's
seems like someone you could chill with, and
I think that if you pick a politician and who's likely to break away from their party and just do their own thing, he's one of those people I don't think is ideologically as captured as other people. The people who I know never in a million years would they become anything other than who they are. There's a ton of those, Chuck Schumers and the Nancy Pelosi's. There's never going to be objectivity in them. I feel like he's reasonable and smart enough that he could break out. Not attracted to him by any means. I don't think he's a great politician, but for that reason, I'll give him.
How do you feel about Tulsi Gabbard?
Love Tulsi Gabbard.
She reminds me of like a, you know how during the election, they had those like posters and things of the Avengers. Like she really does remind me of like, because she's got like the streak in her hair and everything.
Mhm.
You know, when they make those superhero posters, she fits perfectly. I
Oh, for
think.
sure. Yeah, I love Tulsi.
Yeah. I like our editor's note. All right.
We got 2 minutes.
Yeah. Anyone else? You got 2 minutes to talk about
Oh,
who you
Lauren
find attractive.
Boebert and Anna Paulina Luna. I know Lauren Boebert. She's okay.
I don't know who those people are. Janet, real quick, why is he going after universities and low law office? This DEI crap is an excuse to gain total control. Any thoughts on that?
I love that angle on it is amazing from a merit person's perspective. You know, if you're benefiting from DEI policies, then you hate it and whatever. And I'm not denying the fact that the Republicans aren't trying to wrestle control from the Democrats, but you have to acknowledge that the Democrats have captured those institutions for it to be necessary to be wrestled that power back. So if they have the power and you're a Democrat and they own it, of course you're going to complain that it's a power grab. It is 100% a power grab to wrestle it back from the Democrats.
Yes. All righty.
Good. Let's wrap up there. Thanks, everybody.
Let's end with RFK Jr. as one handsome 70-something-year-old man.
She has a crush.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. Thank you for your support.